I call to order this August 5th meeting of the North Allegheny School Board. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Starting with our calendar review, we have our special voting meeting this evening, and it is also a work session. And we have our facilities for the future presentation. Next week, and then after this meeting, we will have an executive session to discuss personnel matters. And next week on August 12th, we will have our regular meeting. And we are going to start with our facilities of the future presentation, and I will pass it off to Mr. Duramo.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Tonight, we will continue providing information for our upcoming renovation and construction projects at the three elementary schools, Hosack, Ingomar, and Peebles. We have representatives tonight from SiteLogic, Mr. Mike Arnold, and Thomas Wippenbeck from the Schrader Group. I wanted to remind everyone as well that tomorrow evening, we will have presentations at each of the three elementary buildings beginning at 6 p.m., and all are welcome to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duramo. Again, my name is Mike Arnold with SiteLogic. With me tonight is Thomas Wickenbach with the Schrader Design Group. And also with us is Josh Grant with McClure, who is our Giza ESCO provider as well. So as normally, we're going to provide an update, kind of a milestone update. This particular update focuses on the elementary schools. We are now at the conclusion of what we call the design development phase. If you recall, the last update, formal update that we had in March summarized the schematic design phase for the elementary schools. We are now going to be discussing the conclusion of the design development phase for the elementary schools. And the reason we are focusing on the elementary schools at this meeting is that they are the furthest along by design, and they will be out to bid first. In the future, in September, we will be bringing to you the design development results for NASH. And then in October, we'll be giving you the schematic design results for NAI, which we have just received updated progress prints on. So as far as the agenda is concerned, we always want to focus on goal number 4 from the Strategic Comprehensive Plan, which talks about the facilities for the future. It's kind of been the anchor of our presentations that has been set forth for the 24 to 29 plan. Tonight, we'll discuss the overall timeline. We always like to start there with the timeline, and then we'll get into the status of the elementary school projects, speaking a bit about some of the progress we've made. Thomas is going to share with you a good bit of graphic information on the design progress, and then I will conclude with cost estimates and next steps. So with that said, our overall timeline, you've seen this graph before, puts us basically at the end of our design development phase and moving into the construction document phase. The good news is we're on schedule. We've been diligently meeting and working out details along the way. What you'll see for the next 3 months is in the blue there is the construction document phase. And what that is really is dotting the I's, crossing the T's, getting the documents ready for public bid so that the contractors have a set of documents that they can put a price on. Then we'll move into that light green area, which is what we call the bidding phase of the project. So the goal is to have the project out for bid in November, receive in December, and bring those bids to the board for action. That'll then put us into the construction phase, which essentially moves forward for about a year and a half and gets us complete by the start of the 2028 school year. So just some overall highlights about what's been happening. We continue to meet biweekly as an overall team. That does not include all of the special meetings that we've been having, and there's been plenty of them. I feel like I've been in this room half my life at this point, but as well as Thomas, I'm sure. But we are on schedule. What we are trying to do and what we've done through the design development phase is really focusing on that goal, number 4, and establishing standards for the district while preserving each building's identity. And I think the input that we've received from the district administration, the principals, the board members that have been at those meetings, we're really doing a good job of being good stewards of that and making sure that we're heading in that direction. One thing I did want to mention with Josh in the room, we've spent a lot of time working with Josh and the McClure Company on the coordination between the public bid portion of these elementary schools and the Giza portion of the elementary schools. And his group gave a presentation at this week's meeting about a little more deep dive into what's exactly in that scope of work, which is predominantly HVAC and electrical. And I believe at a September workshop, you'll hear a little bit more on that prior to acting on that contract. And again, the reason that we're moving in that direction with the Giza is to pre-purchase some equipment that have long lead times to make sure that we're establishing that schedule that we have. So with that brief update, I'll turn it over to Thomas to show you some pretty pictures and talk about the progress.
Thank you, Mike. Leah, looking at a number of you have been able to stop in at some of these design meetings that we have, and the images that we have are in your capsule and things. So these aren't new images. And as was mentioned at the beginning, we are doing a public presentation tomorrow. So these are a lot of the images that we'll be showing at those presentations for the public to see tomorrow. So to kind of go through this for you in a quick manner, these images are showing on the left what is the existing site looks like. On the right, it's showing how we're making improvements, mostly at Hozak with the parent queuing side. And there's a pinch point there that's really a problematic area. So for cars getting past each other. So we're showing how that is going to be improved. And then just overall landscape development with a lot of our township ordinances that have to do with the amount of trees that are on the property. This is the big picture on each of these elementary schools that I think people are going to be most interested in tomorrow. The yellow lines show up a little bit light that show the parent queuing, the red lines showing the bus queuing. But on the right-hand side, it shows how we've improved that parent queuing by adding that additional parking and allowing the cars to line up and then staying off of Peoples Road. So that's the big images that we want to show tomorrow on all 3 schools. We'll show these independently to each project. You've seen this plan before. The red circles show the areas of construction, and all the other blue highlighted areas show work that's being done in the buildings. Then these are some of the images that we came up with that we've been showing to talk about some of the exterior shapes, how the additions are going to look on the building, interior spaces with the admin in your lower left, and then that entrance corridor in the lower right. This shows that entrance from the other side, classrooms, how they'll be renovated, and the circulation desk in the library. Very similar images coming up with Ingomar and Peebles also. So existing conditions there on the left, the way the site will be improved with the parking and the baseball field upgrades, additions, landscaping upgrades for the property. And then this one again, showing with that additional parking lot on the right-hand side, that additional parking will increase the parents' queuing length for student pickup. Then the locations of the additions, where work's going to be happening throughout the building. And then here's the images of the outside. On the upper left is the admin addition, upper right, the LGI. On the lower left is our admin interior shot, and then what the entrance corridor will look like. Peoples Elementary, similar ideas. There's the existing conditions, how the site will be improved. This one's pretty important with the purchase of that house and the property and the expansion of the entrance. So we'll show that, landscaping additions, and then this is going to be the big one again that helps to keep people off of Peoples Road and the increase to that entrance, which I think will be a big improvement in that property. Here's where our additions happen on this project, as well as where the work's happening throughout. Here's our front office. Upper left shows the office addition and expansion. Upper right shows the inside of that. Corridor upgrades, and then some classrooms, how they'll be renovated. So that's what we're going to go over tomorrow. We'll do that a little bit slower so that the people have a chance to respond and react, but that's what we'll be showing people tomorrow.
Okay, as far as the cost estimates are concerned, when we get to the design development phase, we have the opportunity to have more information. So we are able to do a more detailed cost estimate at this particular phase. And what you will ultimately receive, like you have in the previous submissions, is a PDF of a large booklet that is our deliverable. And we're working through that right now, but that'll have more information, quantity takeoffs, et cetera. What we did tonight was give you kind of an overview. And what we did as far as the format is concerned, we tried to show you how the project will be bid, the different elements of the hard costs. So as you're aware from the public bid process, by Pennsylvania law, you have to publicly bid certain portions of the work. Those are the packages, we call them packages, that will be going out. The general prime construction, roofing, casework, plumbing, and fire suppression. And then on the Giza side would be, as we mentioned before, the HVAC and the electrical pieces of the work. We also pulled out the playgrounds because that's something that the district typically purchases directly, and we've been working with some manufacturers and getting some pricing on that. And then one other item that came up through the design development process was, as Schrader was coming up with the various architectural interior finishes, there was a desire to pursue the possibility of some vinyl wall graphics to give some of these areas a bit of a splash. It's been done locally at a lot of different school districts with a lot of success, and it's something that we're investigating and taking a look at. So we put an allowance in for that as well. And then the soft costs, basically all of the fees associated from the professionals, as well as what we call a furniture, fixtures, and equipment allowance, which is your student desks and chairs, technology, permits, change order contingency, things of that nature. So when we speak of these numbers, just again, I've said this at previous meetings, these are all in costs. So, and you can see the total for HOSAC at this point is 11.8 million. And then Ingomar, same format. And you can see at the top, we also identified the building size, how much of that square footage was new that you're adding on to, and what the documents were based upon as well. It's always good to have a reference of what the most recent estimate was based upon. So this is Ingomar Elementary School, and you can see that that total is about 13.3. And then Peebles, the total for that project right now is 12.8. So what does that mean in relationship to what's been presented before? So what we try to do with this particular graphic is, continue to tell a story about when we came here in September of 2025, and we provided a range of costs associated with the conceptual design from Weber Murphy Fox, and where that transpired from that point to the end of the schematic design estimate to now at a portion of the end of the design development estimate. So as you can see, the first three on the far right are the elementary school estimates that I just indicated. The bottom two are in italic because they're carryovers from the schematic and conceptual design phase. You'll hear more about those obviously in September and October. So out of the gate in September, we gave you a range of about 215 million to 230 million. At the schematic design, we were hovering around 226. And then right now we are at 233. So we are up a bit. However, it's somewhat typical when you go through the design development phase. And the reason I say that is that's where a lot of discovery happens. You find out a little bit more about what's going on inside the building, some unforeseen conditions. But overall, pretty satisfied with where we are as far as the overall. We obviously have a lot of work to do on NASH and NAI to get those numbers and feel more comfortable about those. Some of the reasons why you see a bit of an increase, we did make an adjustment. I won't go through all of these, but I'll highlight a few major ones. We did make an adjustment in the furniture, fixtures, and equipment allowance that we had provided. Typically, we pick a percentage, And we utilize that at the very early stages. Now that we know a little bit more about the needs of the district, we did this a little more methodical. So we made an adjustment in those numbers, which went up a bit. We did also move the chiller scope into the base bid from being an alternate. Part of that was just more discovery about the condition of those existing chillers, and the R22, the refrigerant that is no longer available and is environmentally unsafe. So a lot of that had a lot to do with the increase. There's also, tree replacement requirements that we were unaware of that are going to be needed at many of the elementary schools, the vinyl wall graphic allowance that I mentioned before. And then one of the bigger increases is as your civil engineer gets involved in the project, does core borings, does site surveys, you find out a lot more about what needs to be done. So, and the condition of some of the asphalt in certain areas, feeling the need to replace some of that. So that's the reason for the increases that you saw. I still do believe, through the discussions that we've had, that the group has been really good stewards of the project, making sure that equality and character is still maintained, that we're not going overboard. We're doing, what needs to be done. So as far as alternates are concerned, there will still be a handful of alternates. We talked about that before. Going into a public bid event, it's always good to have some alternates just in case the bids come in favorable, that you may want to add some things or take some things away. So we are going to identify some add alternates and some deduct alternates as it goes. The one thing I did want to comment on, we are going to do a combined bidding scenario with these 3 elementary schools to try to get an economy of scale, from those bid events. In other words, a general contractor is going to have the ability to bid on 1 or all 3 of the projects and provide a number. And then the board will be able to analyze the cost savings that may result from all of that. So moving on to next steps, mentioned that McClure will be here in September to give a brief overview of their package for the elementary schools. That'll be up for approval in September. In November, we will review the bids that have been received, and the hope will be that in the December, we'll be in a position to be able to approve those bids, get the prime contractors under contract, and start the construction process. As far as the elementary schools, specifically what we're going to be doing, finalizing those alternates that I mentioned. One of the things we're working with your solicitor on right now is finalizing the front-end documents. When I speak of front-end documents, that's a portion of the specifications that go out. You have drawings and specifications for the contractors to bid, and it really defines the parameters of the projects, the scheduling, the pay application process, all of the kind of the tools that we have as a construction manager to manage those contracts. So we're working with the solicitor on that right now. Obviously, continue with the construction document phase. We didn't talk a lot about the specific phasing of each one of the elementary schools, but we will share that tomorrow night, at the elementary school presentation. We've been working on that, again, to minimize disruption during the school year and making sure there's a good flow of circulation, during the course of the school year. So, and mentioned, we're going to do that tomorrow with the elementary public and faculty. So went through that pretty quickly, but if there's any questions, we're here to answer them.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you both coming this evening to share these slides and go through the process with us. Does anyone on the board have any questions or comments? Dr. Gibbs.
Thank you. I just have, I guess, a concern that I'll raise. So looking at the costs, there's been about a 25% increase in the cost for the 3 elementary schools combined from where we started. And you gave the explanations for that, and I accept all your explanations, and I don't have a problem with that. But thinking of the entire project, $240 million, if we look at similar increases, we're talking now about a $300 million project if we saw similar increases. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I mean, I'm on board with all the changes you mentioned for the elementary schools, but obviously the NAI project is a much bigger project. And so what are your thoughts about what we can expect there?
Yeah, I appreciate your concerns. First of all, the elementary schools are smaller projects, so the increases are obviously going to be a little more jarring. I think the other thing is that you're dealing with additions and partial renovations, whereas NAI is predominantly a new building, and Nash is predominantly an addition. So the potential for what I call scope creep, migrating into the existing building is not going to happen at those two larger buildings that you might have seen here. That would be one item I would say. I think that, you know, when we did a conceptual estimate for NAI, we really didn't have much to go by. So we tried to be conservative with that estimate. I'm hoping that is the case. We're following the market all the time. I think the latest report that we've seen as it relates to the market here in Pennsylvania, as it relates to construction, is that backlog has dropped down a little bit, which means that hopefully that contractors will be hungry, trying to fill their backlogs, you know, when it comes around to the bid date. But great question. There is still, you know, a healthy value engineering process that can take place, especially at places like the NAI project and parts of Nash that we're still working through the design development on.
Anyone else?
Well, I failed to mention two things on one of the graphs. Those numbers do not include the fact that the district received 1.25 million in grants for the pool project. So that will help offset any, you know, anything that happens, you know, when we present the next estimate there. In addition to that, the savings, the guaranteed energy savings from McClure's work, that is it's obviously over time. It wouldn't affect the bond issue as much, but in the long run, you know, you're going to have over $1 million in savings, you know, with that as well. So I just failed to mention that earlier, but.
Mrs. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. I do concur with what Dr. Gibbs said. It's always worrisome to me when I see millions more. And there were several things that I wasn't excited about, but I'm more anxious to get bids and see where that'll give us a true estimate of where we are. And I think we can all better decide on it at that point. And I do want to thank you for all of your work. I suspect that your family thinks that you do live here. And I know that you're a great singer too. I saw that too. So on a side note, I saw him at the festival. So I think that you're pretty busy, but doing a lot of things for the community. And we do appreciate that.
Yeah, the whole team is working very well together. So for sure.
I've certainly appreciated being able to be involved in this process, and I've learned so much. And I really appreciated specifically in this presentation how you did highlight the reasons that things have changed over the course since we started this project. And as we get into more details, there's things we discover that we need or want to do. So yes, a great presentation. Thank you so much. And Mr. Weniger, please.
Yep. Sorry. I know you're developing a list of add alternates. Have we looked at any deduct alternates as well to give the finance team some flexibility
Yeah, we are looking at a few of those right now. And depending on, a lot of people have theories on adds versus deducts. Do you really get the complete deduct back? But I think you still have to have those for a safety valve, you know, in case you have that. So we do have a few set up right now. I think we do need to mine for a few more. And that's something that we can talk about at future meetings. But that's really the next couple of months, just kind of, you know, honing in on what those bidding documents are going to look like, the strategies about how we can get the best bang for our buck in setting all that up. But it's a very great question, legitimate question.
Thanks.
All right. Anyone else? Okay, then we are ready to move on to the next item in our agenda, which is speakers on voting items. Now, this is a special voting meeting and a work session. So this time period right now is for speakers on this evening's voting items only, which are primarily HR. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak on any of the voting items? Okay. All right. Seeing no one, we are going to move on to our special voting items. Since most of these are HR, Dr. Gibbs.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. There are 11 items that we will be voting on this evening. Number one is a renovation permits resolution. Number two is school bus purchase. Three are resignations and retirements. Number four is the appointment of Carla Hudson as the principal of McKnight Elementary School. Number five is the appointment of Ms. Janelle Biagirelli as the acting principal of Carson Middle School. Number six is the appointment of the consultant Kathleen Harrington as the acting principal at Ingomar Middle School. 7 are additional appointments. Number 8 are wage and status changes. 9 are honorary and club activities, 10 are supplemental contracts, and 11 is a settlement agreement. And I so move.
I will second it, but need to abstain from item number 10, please.
Any questions or comments on these items? Dr. Gibbs?
Just a couple of very quick comments regarding a couple of the appointments. Ms. Carla Hudson, who is will be appointed as the new principal at McKnight Elementary. I just want to comment that she has been in the past assistant principal at McKnight, and she's also served as the elementary principal for the North Allegheny Cyber Academy, the principal at Hozak Elementary, and most recently as the principal of Ingomar Middle. So she's been with the district quite a long time, and she's very familiar with McKnight. So I think that's an excellent appointment. Ms. Biagirelli is going to be serving as the acting principal at Carson Elementary while Dr. Ewing is on sabbatical during the 26-27 school year. And I want to mention that Ms. Biagirelli was the acting principal at Carson during the second semester of the last school year as well. So I thought the community might like to know this.
Anyone else? I just wanted to make a comment about a couple of our retirements. Jason Schwobel, who has been at NA for 30 years, and he is just, all my interactions with him have been so lovely, such a kind person, open to new ideas, a real team player, and I'm sad to see him go, but I'm happy for him in his retirement, and his wife really put up with my most difficult child. So I hope they will both enjoy their retirement very much. And also Chris Shute, who is retiring as the McKnight Prince from the McKnight Elementary School. I have visited that school so many times, felt so welcome. He really cares about kids, and he's so patient. And my daughter spent time at McKnight. My children went to Peoples, but my daughter often in 5th grade started her day at McKnight, and I believe she knows the McKnight song better than she even knows the Peoples Pledge. And as a student who was there as a guest, she always felt so welcome there too. And I just appreciate all the great work and the welcoming atmosphere he's brought to that building, and he will be sorely missed. And Dr. Gibbs?
Yeah, there are just a couple other retirements that I think are worth noting as well. So Dennis Marks is retiring after 7 years as a bus driver in our district. Suzanne Zellick is retiring after 19 years as a special education assistant at Franklin Elementary. And Vincent Zuchar will be retiring as lead custodian most recently at Franklin Elementary, where he's been for 24 years. So I wanted to mention them as well.
Thank you. Any other comments on these special voting items? Oh, Mrs. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. I'd just like to give a little bit of credit to Mr. DeRamo because he chose to make some moves that have helped our district. You know, it would have been very difficult to have 2 brand new people at a large elementary like McKnight. So it appears that he's hit the ground running, which I appreciate. So thank you to Mr. DeRamo for taking care of all of our kids, which is the most important thing that we're doing here at North Allegheny. So thank you for having those thoughts and getting our buildings in good order.
Thank you, Mrs. Blackburn. I agree. Anyone else? Okay, then we are ready for the vote.
The vote is open. Would you like to verbally vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Shaw, how would you like to vote? The vote has closed and all items passed unanimously, with Mrs. Blackburn abstaining from item number 10.
We will move on to the curriculum report. Since Ms. Hardy is unavailable this evening, Mrs. Blackburn, do you mind?
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. We will have 4 items for board action next week: a third-party letter of agreement for non-public Title I services, a Title I non-public services addendum, Study Island software renewal, and formative digital assessment platform. Those are all of the items.
Any questions or comments on these items? All right, seeing none, we can move on to the finance report. Mr. Weniger.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. This month, we will have 9 items for board action. They are the e-grants, the tuition rate for 2026-27, Regeneron Society for Science Award, the collateral securities report, the student expenditures for May of 2026, as well as June, the certification of unpaid 2025 taxes, the accounts payable list for June 26, the accounts payable list for July of 2026, and the information only items are the ending cash balances for June and July, and the July forecast.
Any questions or comments from anyone on these items? Okay. Then we can move on to the Human Resources Report. Dr. Gibbs.
Yes, thank you. There will be 3 items for action next week. There's one is leaves of absence. Number 2 is recognition for additional education. And number 3 are tuition reimbursements for additional education. And I have a comment just regarding number 2, recognition for additional education. I always like to recognize people when they complete an advanced degree. So we have 3 individuals who've completed a master's degree: Spencer Blackburn, Leah Wildman, and Shannon Ziwi. So I want to congratulate them on attaining that degree.
Does anyone else have any comments on the Human Resources Report? Mrs. Weidman. Ms. Weidman.
I think it might be prudent to just speak on behalf of the HR department and indicate that there may be more than these 3 items for next week if we hire any new teachers or staff members between then and now.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
making that point. I agree. I expect this folder will be much longer next week, as this is a busy time of year for Ms. Tracy. Anyone else? Okay. Then we have Mrs. Light with the Property and Supplies Report.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Next week, we have 3 items in property and supplies: reduction of fee waiver for camp convention, shuttle service for McCandless Community Day, and the bus stops for the 26-27 school year.
Does anyone have questions or comments on this folder? All right. Then we can move on to the Student Services Report. Mrs. Blackburn.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. We have 10 items for board action next week. The first, UPMC School Partnered Collaborative Care Study. Number 2, Watson Institute Education Center Agreement. 3, PACE School Agreement. 4, Partial Hospitalization Services Agreement with Wesley Family Services. The 5th is the Western PA School for the Deaf Personal Care Assistant. 6th, AIU DHH Services Agreement. The 7th, Independent Contractor Agreement. 8th, the School at McGuire Memorial Agreement. Number 9, Western PA School for the Deaf, ESY. And finally, number 10, WISCA Letters of Agreement. There also will be information-only items of student-teacher requests.
Any questions or comments on the Student Services Report? Okay. Then we will move on to Dr. Shaw and the Technology Services Report.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. We will have 1 item for board consideration next week, and that is accepting the PEPM proposal for Bytespeed for upgrading the district's core server and environment.
Anyone have any questions or comments on this item? Okay. Then we move on to Mr. Duramo for his first superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Next week, we will have 3 items for board consideration. They are the school calendar for 27-28 school year, a second read and adoption of policy 903, and professional seminars and development. In addition, there are 15 items for information only. They include first reads for new or updated policies numbered 219, 222, 223, 226, 318, 319, 320, 322, and 342, as well as retirements of policies numbered 353, 453, 553, 422, 522, and 327.
Thank you, Mr. DeRamo. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the superintendent's report? Go ahead, Mr. DeRamo.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Two items. The first, I want to bring special attention to that the school calendar is traditionally approved at a later date, but to be proactive and to clearly communicate for appropriate preparation for our community, we wanted to have an earlier adoption of the calendar. And that's obviously for our projected renovation projects and timing as we move forward. Also, regarding the policies listed for retirement, I want to make a special note that these policies are already in existence or have been duplicated in other policies that have since been updated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeRamo. Does anyone else have comments on the superintendent's report? Okay. Then we will move on to our speakers on non-voting items. No one has pre-registered to speak this evening. But if you would like to come to the podium and speak to the board on any topic, this is your opportunity. This is not an opportunity for back and forth discussion, but is anyone in the audience interested? Mr. Harrison.
Good evening. Welcome back to school. John Harrison, Edmund Drive, Allison Park. Concerns still exist on policy 903 as far as limiting the amount of speak time for the general public for meetings. As a general public, you have some board meetings that have many things on the agenda, and to go and curtail comments from the public to 3 minutes instead of 5 minutes on multiple items is starting to become a little bit crazy. I understand that other districts have longer periods of time or shorter periods of time to speak. We're NA. We're not the other districts. We are here. Everybody is below us. So let us set the standards so that the public can have their input for what goes on. We're planning on spending millions and millions and millions of dollars, and if you have no input from the general public, that's really not, or very limited input from the general public, you're curtailing and critiquing and shortchanging the general public. You're shortchanging yourselves of the knowledge of the people of North Allegheny. So please, I would ask you to revert that back to the old policy of 5 minutes and utilize that. In the past, you have had times when we've had public hearings and you've curtailed that instead of it being 5 minutes, you gave us 2 minutes to speak. I was at one of those meetings, and some of the people that are here on the board were at that meeting. A meeting lasted until 1:23 a.m. when we tried to close Peoples. Had people not been able to speak at that meeting, probably Peoples would have been closed.
10 seconds.
And where would we be? So think about what we're putting, let the general public talk. Thank you.
Mr. Wall.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Wall. I live at Arcadia Drive in the Camels. I'm also a member of Town Council, so before I get started, Mr. Durham, welcome to North Allegheny. Welcome to the superintendent's office. I'd like to thank each and everybody on this board because as a public official, I understand how difficult some of these meetings can be and how long they can be. So I want to thank you for what you do because largely it's a thankless job. Now, the reason that I'm here tonight is that we are in a tax year. The school district is going to raise taxes. That's a foregone conclusion because it happens every 3 years, whether we like to or not. That is the economic realities of things. You're also going to raise taxes because we have a bond issue that's coming up. I believe that we need to allow people to express themselves and to vent. You guys are doing yeoman's duties. You're doing what's necessary. I saw the numbers that are here, and they're not unreasonable. $233 million to outfit 5 schools. It's pretty amazing. But You have people, you have senior citizens, you have other people in the community that need to voice their opinion. And I have 29 seconds. I'm gonna get my stuff in within 2 minutes. Not everybody can do that. So I ask you to reconsider. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. That's not my place. I'm gonna ask you to reconsider and consider the ramifications of cutting back on public comment. Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak for up to 2 minutes on any topic? Okay, then we will move on to our closing items. Does anyone have any announcements or reminders?
I am.
Mr. Duramo.
Thank you, Mrs. Warner. Just as a reminder to the community, and I know Mr. Gore has done a great job with the communications and Mr. Harold through our public relations, but we do have a scheduled emergency exercise at Ingomar Middle School this Friday, starting off at around 8 a.m., potentially ending around lunchtime. But I wanted to bring that to the attention of the community. This is a opportunity to work with and serve as a member with our Franklin Park Police Department and surrounding first responders. And I would like to recognize and thank Chief Harpster for allowing us to engage in this process, as also one of our major goals is the safety and wellness of our students. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duramo. Anyone else? I'm gonna make the same announcement next week, and I'm preaching to the choir a little bit here, but I just would like to remind the community that the North Allegheny Marching Band's community preview will be next Friday, August 14th at 7 p.m. And it would be great if you would like to come out and support our marching band students, and it should be a wonderful show. And if there are no other announcements or reminders, we are adjourned.